Hello and welcome back at long last to the Spacebook, talking all out there entertainment and live streaming it to you onto Rumble and YouTube. This is pop culture discussed, debated, devoured and debagged right here on the best channel that you've never heard of. Tuning in there. It's Saturday the 24th of August 2024 and this is our 100% real-time live stream. Great to be back. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and no one can hear me scream here in the bowels of the Black Country. To be honest, even if they could, I doubt if they'd say anything. They certainly wouldn't come to my rescue. Or would they? Maybe they have, because I have a panel of plucky pundits here, dripping in sweat and tension and ready to go face to face or face to fang with something truly beastly. Yes, so get stuck in. Everyone make yourselves comfortable and take yourselves back there to the depths of space here on the first one of these shows in a little while. It's great to be back talking movies, TV, comic books and physical media, whatever we can get up here on the flickering screen. So let's waste no more time and bring them on. Bring them in. Bit of both. On and in, see if they're switched on. I think he's always switched on, particularly when it comes to talking about movies, old and new, because he's a big old mega geek. Welcome back, Ian David Dears.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
Very good.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, no. This is one to talk about, isn't it? Really, let's face it. So can't wait to get stuck in.
It's good to see you, mate. It's been a little while. I know you were very excited about this. I don't know if you're counting down the weeks. I've seen you get excited about some movies, some more than others. So I can't wait to see what you've got to say about this talking point. But how have you been this week?
I've been all right. Been working my arse off. That's why I haven't been on any Type 40 stuff. So, but hopefully it will calm down soon, and then I'll be able to get back to business. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Business? What do you mean business? What do you mean, Roy? What do you mean? Oh dear. Well, we've got the perfect sort of first course, I suppose, to launch this new season of the Spacebook Live, the latest entry in a movie legacy that stretches back well over 40 years. Almost, it's about the same as you, isn't it? You're a movie legacy that stretches back over 40 years as well. And we've got some others who fit that bill too. Let's see where he is. We've managed to get him. Yes, he's a regular on Type 40 Live, of course, but he does now and again watch other things. I'm happy to welcome to the Spacebook Live, Simon Horton.
Hello there, it's lovely to be here. I am right down here in the depths of the Nostromo. I am, yeah. I'm in the lower levels where Ridley never went.
You look like you're in the lavatory.
No, I'm just keeping it spooky. We're here for spookiness. So let's keep it spooky.
I do have to tell people, assure people, Simon, that we do watch other things, not just Doctor Who.
We do. Listen, I am like Mega Geek. I am a huge movie buff. I love my movies, horror, sci-fi. Absolutely love them. I am as geeky about those as I am about Doctor Who, 100%. So I'm not here under duress at all. This is a very happy place for me to be, and I do like being in the dark. This is where it's all at.
A happy place, you say? This is not such a happy place. All those memories, all those years ago. I wonder whether we're going to evoke more of that as the conversation goes on. We've got more people to bring in. Another familiar face and voice, I'm happy to say, back on the channel after a little bit of a break live streaming. And she's been on the go all day too, but we've managed to grab starry-eyed girl Sarah Graham as well.
Hello, everybody.
Woo! Hello, Sarah.
Here. And yes, like everybody else, yeah, I love my movies, I love my sci-fi, and yeah, I couldn't wait to join this. But yes, it's been a very long day. I've been out socialising with Queen Charlotte, of all people.
Oh, very nice.
I've had a lovely day in Manchester.
Queen Charlotte.
We're out and about. You might have seen us royalies parading about a bit.
Sounds intriguing and unmissable. I'm sure we'll hear more about that as the next hour or so goes on. And finally, filling out the panel, I'm happy to say we have pop culture YouTube royalty too. We've got now this man. I look at him, Ian, as a sort of one of the Gandalfs of movies and TV coverage here on YouTube. He's had his own very successful. It seems to just grow every time I go and check out the videos over there on his channel, and so does his beard. Come to think of it, happily we can still hear his dulcet tones and bask in the wisdom that simply pours from the lips of Culture Casino.
Well, my goodness, I'm not sure I deserve that build-up, but I appreciate it. And
you better be good after this.
Yeah, no pressure, love, no pressure.
I feel like the only reason I get compared to Gandalf is the beard. But look, I just want to say I feel very honored to be the first here on this return of this great show. So thank you for having me as guest. I appreciate it very much.
He's the only American here as well. So there you go.
Yeah. No, I actually was kind of excited when I got this invitation last night. I was very, very excited.
Bless you.
So thank you. I felt like, wow, I hadn't done this in a long time, and I didn't know you hadn't had this going for a bit. So I'm excited because I will say this is one of my favorite film franchises. And,
great.
And so it's easy to engage on this subject. So I'm
with you. I'm with you totally on that. This is absolutely one of my favorite all-time movie franchises.
Me too.
Well, my first question it actually goes to you, Culture. Come to think of it, is when you talk about this film franchise and this legacy, are the Alien series, are they American movies or are they British movies?
Good question.
I would say a lot of the inspiration probably came from the UK. I would suggest that they probably had an origin there. I would think that would be an easy thing to assign, but I think they've been Americanized over time.
Yeah, because I've been thinking about this over the last 4 or 5 days since I saw this latest entry in the legacy. Because the first two were certainly shot in Britain, were they not, Ian?
It's an American thing. It definitely is. It was created by two Americans. It's got its roots in John Carpenter world. Walter Hill is an American. He was meant to direct it, but he couldn't find a reason to direct it. Do you know what I mean? It's an American thing. It just so happened to be shot. The first one just so happened to be shot over here.
Well, would it be fair, Ian, for me to say that Ridley Scott's a British fellow?
Yeah,
he is. But the money came from America. You have American stars in it and British stars.
Well, yeah, but having said that, it was a British crew that shot the first film. It was an all British crew. So,
but hold on. No, that doesn't make any sense. If the money comes from America.
But if the craftspeople are British, it's a British movie. Well, it's an Anglo-American movie. It's simple as that.
Yeah, it's a joint venture. It's a collaboration. We'll say that.
I think it's an American movie.
But that's like, if you're going to say that, that's like saying the Five Doctors is an Australian Doctor Who story because the money came from Australia.
No, but it originated in England. That's why you would say that's English. But Aliens originated from America, didn't it? The two American guys that created it. So it's American, in my opinion. Anyway, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter, does it? Let's face it.
Of course, the main reason why they would never make a film like Alien out of the gate now is because they would probably claim that it paints aliens themselves in a bad light or tars them all with the same terrible brush, Sarah, because as we know, a lot of aliens, they're not all like toothy monsters that want to devour the human race. Some of them do know how to have a good time, don't they?
Absolutely. What is that? That's terrible.
Aliens playing volleyball.
I think that was reminiscent of Top Gun for a moment there. I think.
It was indeed.
That's what that would be called.
Oh, heavens above. So, yes, what are we talking about? What are we going on about? This is the film that has gripped popular culture and movie buffs over the last week and a half or so. We've seen trailers, teaser trailers, posters, artwork, and various things. And over the last, I think, year, 18 months or so since word got out that this film was being made, a lot of us kind of tentatively built up our hopes because these franchises that we've all grown up watching, a lot of them have been driven hard into the ground over the last 7 to 10 years or so as part of the bloody awful culture war. But yeah, I'm happy to say we're here to talk about Alien Romulus, which was released on the 16th of August. So just a week and a half ago. And again, this legacy of movies has been around for a very, very, very long time. 4 original films. The first in 1979, Alien, directed by Ridley Scott, followed by Aliens, directed by James Cameron in 1986. David Fincher's Alien 3 followed in 1992. And then the bloke whose name I can't pronounce, he finished off that original cycle of 4 with Alien Resurrection in 1997. Jean-Pierre Jeunet, I think his name is, Simon. Have I got that right?
Jean-Pierre Jeunet. Close.
I was close.
Yeah. But it's got a silent T.
I was close. Of course, all of that is 27 years ago. Very, very long time. I mean, Ridley Scott himself did return to the franchise to sort of enhance it. Depends on how you look at it. To flesh out, I think he wanted to expand the universe culture here. You will understand. This is a cultured man. Expand it with these 2 prequels set in the same universe, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but they came out into 2011 and 2017, I think it was, respectively. But they were very different, very sort of sci-fi-y movies. Through one reason or another, the franchise has been kind of dormant ever since. What surprised me the most was that this new film was being slotted specifically in between Alien and Aliens culture. Yes. It's a curious choice, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought that was odd, but it kind of makes sense because there were moments of this film, and we can certainly go into it later, where they were trying to tie in those additions that Ridley tried to add at the end, which again, I think kind of tainted the universe and drove people to think that this was probably over at that point. But I think that this latest film has reinvigorated interest in it. It's kind of like, getting that engine back up and running after maybe it hadn't been turned on for a while, and placing this as a midquel. Again, it gave you an attachment point to Prometheus and Covenant, but maybe not too strongly, so that the fans that really didn't accept those 2 films would be a little bit more likely to enjoy this one.
There's a danger, isn't there, to trying to please everybody? There's always the danger that you could come away pleasing or not pleasing anybody enough.
Well, I think we could all argue that they really needed to figure out who their target audience was here, and consider that this maybe never would have been on the film had it not been for Fede Alvarez and his vision, because this possibly could have ended up on streaming rather easily. So,
because you could say that the Alien movies as a thing, as an entity, Simon, they are pretty much, I think we kind of lift some of these series of movies aloft a little more than they need be. I mean, these films are monster movies at their heart, aren't they? Good old-fashioned monster movies when they're working at their best. Well, and so,
I think I disagree with you. They are monster movies, but the first 2, Alien and Aliens, Alien in particular, is a work of art. It is an incredibly accomplished film. Just because it's a monster movie, it is a remarkably accomplished piece of work. If you look at it, the same as Culture Casino, you were saying a minute ago, that could so easily have ended up in the bargain basement. That could have gone straight to video and could have ended up in the bargain basement. And in lesser hands, it would have done, undoubtedly. But Ridley Scott did create literally a work of art, as far as I'm concerned. And so I think it's far, far more than just a monster movie.
Do you think because it's not pulpy, is it?
It's not pulpy in the slightest. That's one thing. It absolutely.
I see what you mean.
And so you look at other movies around about that particular era, or certainly the ones that came after Alien, because they'd been influenced by Alien. Those are pure pulp movies. That they're just pulp SF. They're bargain basement. Nothing wrong with them. I thoroughly enjoy some of those just as much. But as I say, you look at Alien. and this is a master craftsman at the absolute peak of his game, and so it's, as I say, it's a far more accomplished movie than just your regular monster movie. In the same way that Halloween is far more than just a slasher movie. Again,
just a chase film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the cultural landscape as well, culture, no pun intended. What you said actually does really ring true with me. Identifying who the audience is for this, because Ridley Scott, through all of his best of intentions, kind of muddied the water. They were the stories that he wanted to tell, and I respect that. I even see a lot of worth in that. But the main audience for this stuff are the people who want to be on the edge of their seats. They want to. They want to have the willies scared out of them, really. And so to come back to it, like seven years on, with a fresh director, you would hope they would have a take, and at a very particular time in the history of the intellectual property where it's sort of changed hands. I wouldn't describe it as necessarily a ballsy move, but I think this is probably the last chance for the Alien franchise at the cinema for a while. Of course, 20th Century Fox was acquired by the Walt Disney Company around 2018, 2019, wasn't it? Along with dozens, if not hundreds, of other properties. And quite understandably, the people who really do cherish the brand Alien and this legacy have been a little bit nervous about what would happen with it when something sort of comes out of the sausage machine that is Disney. I mean, we're gonna talk about the film in a moment and eventually arrive at a score for the whole thing as well. But the general mood at the moment, Ian, is that the 20th Century Fox sort of brand of movies, stuff like Planet of the Apes and The Predator and all these other things, they're attaching people to them who don't necessarily seem to be the kind of people that are usual Disney picks.
What was the question? Sorry.
Well, they're not going for the usual type. They haven't got somebody to direct this new Alien film, for example,
Right.
who made Miss Marvel or something like that. They've gone to Fede Alvarez, who, as I understand it, has only really made the two movies, which are quite low budget horror flicks. So they're not making necessarily populist choices. I don't know if it's a gamble as such, but they're not employing people who make family movies, are they?
No, they're not. Sorry, there's a fly in my room and it's really bothering me. No,
It's not an alien, is it, by any chance?
Yeah.
Get out of there, Ian.
That's how it started. That's how it started. Let's get into it. Of course, we are live streaming this over to where are we? We're on YouTube and Rumble as well, so people can hear our thoughts on this, our observations. It's going to be absolutely loaded with spoilers, everybody. So don't complain to us after the fact. Don't say we haven't warned you. There's people watching on those platforms and adding their comments too. We'll come to those as we're going along. See how many of them have seen the film and what they've got to say and how their thoughts, their takes compare to ours when we get stuck in. How does that sound?
Sounds good to me. Affirmative, that's what
Get
I
on
should
with
say.
it.
We're going all in. Yes, on Alien Covenant. Yes.
Oh boy.
Where are we? There.
Kenner presents new Alien action figure.
Bayman's glow! Quick, shut the airlock! The alien's locked out now! He got through! Shh! Give up! Alien can't be beat! We'll zap him with the light! Don't, he'll destroy the spaceship! We've lost! Better find another ship! Let's try the kitchen! Another triumph for Alien!
Alien action figure. New from Kenner.
Our first show back, and I've already got the name of the film wrong once. This is Alien Romulus, released on August the 16th, 2024. It stars Kaylee Spaney, David Johnson, Archie Renault, and Isabel Merced, with Spike Fern and Aileen Wu. It's directed by Fede Alvarez, written by Fede Alvarez as well, alongside Rodo Sayagas, sorry Rhoda if you are watching, and produced by Scott Free Productions in association with Brandy Wine. These are names that I recognise from various places. A budget of just $80 million on a movie of this size, Ian, or attached to an IP of this much worth. 80 million is not a lot, is it?
No, it's less than the. I think it's less than the prequels, wasn't it? The prequels cost a hell of a lot more. But I heard that this was going to be a streaming film at one point, and then I think it was like when they were shooting it, they suddenly realized they wanted to be in a cinema, so they just kept the budget though. So
I like
because
like
the Predator movie. Well, because the Predator movie went to Hulu, didn't it, Sarah? So maybe they were following the same.
Yeah, maybe,
possibly, yeah. But no, we need to get back generally in movie making, having these low budgets, because these ridiculous, overblown budgets, especially with Disney, they're the worst offenders for this.
Big budgets don't make a good film. Simple as that.
And again, I mean, you should have a script completed before you start making a film. I think
that also helps. Yeah.
but one of the
bonus if you have
indeed one of the amazing things about this though is that that $80 million budget, they are going to get some tax credit back for that because of where they shot it. So it'll only wind up costing them about $50 million. So after it's all said and done, not obviously with ads and print. But you know, by the time we're done with promotion, I'm sure it'll be much closer to that $80 to $100 million range, and that's perfectly reasonable for a film that, you know, was already in $100 million very, very quickly. So
where was it? Where was it shot then, Culture?
I believe it was Turkey or Hungary. Both of those countries will give you a considerable tax rebate, much like you guys do for the terrible Disney films. Thank you for that, saving them several dollars all the time.
We like to do our bit.
Scotland has a good tax break, doesn't it? Scotland, because they shot the Indiana Jones film down there, and also some of the Star Wars films. I think Star Wars TV shows down there. I think so.
Yeah, like you said, the shooting this film where they did got them a lot of benefits. Not to mention the fact that they really only had 7 sets, and almost everything was practical. So outside of, you know, sorry, I'm adding too much background possibly and not in the place you want it, but you know, it was a lot of practical sets and a lot of the aesthetic that they were able to recreate. They painstakingly created physically, so the actors didn't have to act so much in the environment that actually existed around them.
Quite often on this show and the various things that we do, Culture, we talk a lot about authenticity. Yep. And Simon, in particular, you talk quite a lot, don't you? You know, even just on the television budget, about things you can reach out and touch, props, scenery, and just the feeling of the. And you get that very much with this movie. I think that sort of dankness that we associate with the Alien movies, generally speaking, that's very present and correct, isn't it? And that sense of the kind of movies, not just horror and sci-fi movies, but thrillers as we used to get them in the mid to late 70s and sort of nudging into the 80s a little.
Gosh, that's a really difficult question for me to answer personally, because I would disagree. I think it didn't have the dankness of the original film. Okay. It tried to have the dankness of the original film. It thought it had got the dankness of the original film, but it hadn't, simply because that original film is so gritty, so realistic, because everything is real. Whereas this, to me, still felt like they were trying to recreate the feel of the original film, but it's still got that sheen of CGI all over the top of it, and that sheen of very high resolution imagery that's not present in the original film. And so, no, for me, this still felt like they were trying to do it, but they just can't help themselves. They've just got to slather CGI over it, smooth out all the rough edges, make it look really nice and shiny. And that's not, to me, an Alien movie. This
seemed glossy to you then?
Yeah, it was glossy dankness, for want of a better word.
It was too slick.
Too slick, absolutely. Too shiny, too glossy, too slick.
They were definitely trying. I mean, obviously the set design was incredible, and they were trying to be really faithful.
Brilliant.
Especially to the first film. But yeah, there was still that element of, it was still too slick. That's
could I suggest
too sharp?
Right, but I might suggest that it's because of the medium they used. They did not use film, so I think that
that's something to help. Absolutely, you're correct.
I think that's why you feel like it's a 4K soap opera. And I think that's something that you have to take into account. I think some of the best things are obviously film transfers that, are done properly. And I mean, it's one of the reasons why when you look at something that's shot purposefully like that you were able to get an more authentic look, like with Oppenheimer, let's say. But films aren't shot on film anymore. So now, do you want artificial film grain added so it takes away that resolution? I mean, what would be the solution to that? Because aesthetically, this film, and I hate to push back or have a counterpoint to it, but aesthetically, this film was so dedicated to the look, and as Sarah said, that you end up with that 4:3 stuff, and yet you have this crystal clear image. I like I said, I would have appreciated it being done on film as well, but
totally.
I'm afraid that A, it's too costly, and B, it's too time consuming, and C, I'm not certain we would even end up with maybe something that looked as good as this, or maybe as good as, the original film. But no, I think that's the only place where maybe we lose that authenticity, but I think it's because of the medium.
I as I say, I agree with you that the medium obviously makes a difference to it, but for me, it was the amount of CGI gloss that is added to it. That's what causes the problem for me personally. So, for example, you look at the original film, and indeed Aliens, and a shot like we're looking at now, for example, with the planet in the background, and for example, in the first film, the Nostromo just hanging there. Because it's all done with models, it feels so gritty and realistic, and I feel the isolation in that original film. I feel they are right on the far edges of space in a terrible situation. With this, because it's also beautiful and shiny and slick, it's the CGI for me.
You see, I'm gonna step in and say my experience was completely different. I did feel completely isolated by this. I'm actually surprised. I haven't looked into it. I don't know how much of this was practical, how much it was model work, because for me it felt really as authentic as you could be to that particular time of movie making. I could have sworn that a lot of this was indeed models, and it felt the sense of scale for me as well as isolation really did make me feel like I was back in that universe, and I didn't feel it was too glossy. I didn't feel it was too glossy at all. I mean, the story starts off. We won't drop too many spoilers in this, but the general plot says, while scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. I mean, do you think that some of what may give it a sort of glossy feeling is some of the beautiful faces that light up the screen when you're watching this? Because there are no faces that only a mother would love, are there? Everybody in this is really, really good looking.
It's basically Towie in space, isn't it? Let's be honest.
I wouldn't quite be that dismissive, but I do notice that because everybody is largely of the same demographic, Sarah, of the same age group in particular, and has a certain kind of doughy-eyedness to it. I did wonder, because I looked down the cast list, and most of these actors I've never seen in anything before. So I looked down the cast list and I thought, they all seem so young. Am I watching a YA take on Alien, a young adult story? So I went back to see how old they all were. And for example, I made a note of Kaylee Spaney, who plays the lead, is 26. David Johnson, who's arguably the supporting lead, the co-lead, he's 30 years old. Isabella Merced, who I last saw in Dora the Explorer, the movie, and who's just been cast as Hawk Girl in Superman next year, she's 23. A lot of them are in their 20s, whereas in earlier films in this legacy, we get quite a mix of people, don't we? So I think they're all very, very pretty, very untainted by life. But it does turn out that is stitched into the story. But I think it doesn't help combat that feeling that Simon has of a maybe sort of glossiness to it. I don't know.
It doesn't ring true, because they're stuck on this planet where they're supposed to work, but they don't.
They're miners, aren't they?
Weathered. And the thing with the crew of the Nostromo, you believed they were workers because it was a mature cast.
Correct.
Some of them look very weathered, especially
grizzled is the word. Grizzled.
Yes.
The thing with this though is that the idea is they've grown up in that society, haven't they? They don't know any other way of life, and they're stuck in that way of life with no means of escape. And that is what propels them to take the course of actions that they do to try and reach what they believe to be a derelict but operational spacecraft and make for a better life.
But the problem is, for me, they just looked so much like sort of pin-up kids. They didn't look like they'd been born and grown up into this environment. I genuinely believe that they would look a lot rougher and less beautiful,
less moisturised.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not a callus.
Less Hollywood.
There's not a callus on any hand in sight.
No.
I don't. Again, we didn't get to inspect the other side characters very much, who would have been actually working in the mines. But I mean, Kaylee Spaney's character, and I'm not sure about the other young lady that's in the film, but they were working in food production. So I don't know that they would have been exposed to the mines and that level of hard work and things like that. I'm not going to try to explain that away. The unfortunate thing, I guess, and I would agree with you, is that Kaylee Spaney looks much younger than her age. And I understand where you're coming from. But again, also with film grain, I don't know that the age would have been quite as noticeable.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and I, like I said, I mean, I thought David Johnson was basically the feature of this film.
Yes, he was.
I would agree with that.
His ability to act was spectacular. But
yes,
you're making excellent points. But the problem is that I keep going that, with the technology they're using, I don't know how you would fix some of this. I mean, the only CGI that I think you could actually notice was at times were some of the alien things, and obviously the slew of facehuggers and things like that for sure. But they used practical effects to the extent that they always have tried to. There was a massive amount of puppeteering with the alien creatures themselves. Those big giant things, those are physical. The sets are physical. Outside of the actor, that I'm not going to spoil it for anybody that appears that is no longer living, I don't know how much additional CGI they had to lean into in a major way. One of the things is, I mean, when you're looking at the ships in space, those are ships in space. Those are physical things. They're using all the classic stuff, like, hanging the camera upside down and shooting it on the approach. And I think the loneliness of space is represented incredibly well because, I hate to be the counter argument to this.
Culture. I feel exactly the same way, and I have the only bit of behind the scenes information that I really know about this is that they did employ Scott Free did employ some of the original technical people that worked on Aliens in 1986. That's the only thing I know about it.
Yeah, I was very impressed with it. And look, and not to spoil the film, because it actually doesn't. But
away. We're going to spoil it. We're going to spoil the balls off this one.
No.
You shouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen Alien Romulus yet.
All right. But the film begins in silence and it ends in silence. It's one of it conveys the whole point. Like, no one can hear you scream in space. The whole idea behind that. In space, no one can hear you scream. But regardless, when you're looking at it, that first shot, perfect use of silence. It's very hard in a film, very hard in a film to do that. And they return to that when the film ends. And it's just in that emptiness and that aloneness that you would be in space. It honors the previous film. In a lot of ways, this thing did do. I want to call it fan service and not member berries, because there was a lot of it there. But there were things in this that they could have definitely left out. But when you look at that hallway, that's a real hallway. They built the thing. It's, to me, that's great. I mean, the wire work that they did behind the scenes for this film to like make people float and things like that. That's all practical. The brilliant ways to make this actually work. And after doing a little bit of research behind the scenes, this was shot, as I said, in Hungary and at a very famous studio where they allowed them to build out these sets. And I think, to return to what Starry Eyed Girl said, I think if you want to save money on a film, build the stuff, shoot the stuff.
Well, it just makes so much sense. You've got everything there. It's easy for you're going to get a better performance than just the silly green screen.
I would agree to, the sets were not, I didn't have a problem with the sets. The only problem I had with the sets, and I don't know whether this was directorially or from the script, I struggled with the geography of the environments that they were in. It was difficult at times to work out, sorry, are we in Romulus? Are we in Romulus?
I struggled with that too.
There seemed to be no indication we're suddenly in a lift. We didn't realise that they got into a lift even, but they're suddenly in a lift.
To be honest, Simon, this is something as well that's attached to the other thing that I struggled with as well, was and culture saying that about the fact that they didn't work in the mine, they worked in food. That had either completely sailed past me, or I thought I was paying attention, but there was lots of things in this where I had to go back on myself and think, hang on, where are we again? Or hang on, what did they say they were doing again? Just here and there, which did take away some of the pinnings of the film.
Yeah, I would say that the throwaway dialogue lines that were supposed to be exposition for that particular thing were rather tossed away, thrown away. And I don't think that unless you were paying attention, you'd realize it, because that was made very clear in the colonial outpost for, the workers' affairs or whatever that building was, but Wayland Yutani had there. When she went in to visit that lady, they were moving her from food production to the mines as part of, doubling her time there. Anyway, sorry. But that's what happened. So.
I think the truth. Sorry, Culture, carry on.
No, it wasn't me.
No,
I think part of the problem here is I saw Ridley Scott being interviewed at the premiere, and he was saying how much longer he wouldn't say how long the original cut was. But apparently one of his only notes, in fact, I think he might have said it was his only note, to the director was, it's too long. And so they cut a lot out. And I think there is your answer. That, to me, Ridley Scott said, these were his words, the director had got too much going on. Those were his words. There was too much happening. There was too much going on. And Ridley Scott told him to cut it back. So they did cut it back. But that, to me, is where the problems come from, because so much of this exposition has been lost in translation. To be honest, I lost total investment in this film within about the first 15 minutes when we've set up this planet that they cannot escape from, and they get into a spaceship and they escape from it. They just leave. There's no explanation where they got the spaceship from, why the spaceship is just allowed to leave the planet.
Well, they come with a ready formulated plan, don't they? Which it seems like they've been working on the plan for a while, and they've got the pilots, they've got the science, everything locked down. They know what part everybody's going to play in it, and when we come into it, it's like joining Ocean's 11 kind of halfway through when they're already halfway into the heist, and we're not privy to that. And I agree. The more I think about it, perhaps that was sort of partly why I struggled with a couple of the finer details, because I hadn't seen them put the plan together.
I just genuinely want to know how they left the planet without anybody noticing. That, this planet that we've been told, you cannot leave, you cannot get off this planet. But they just leave, and nobody bats an eyelid. Nobody even notices they've gone.
Yeah, nobody tries. There was maybe there should have been a scene where I suppose it would have took time up though, where they commandeer the ship, but at least you get to see how.
But you still need to know how to get off the planet.
I think from what I remember, these things were addressed, but yet again in really minor parts of the dialogue, whereby if you're looking at a fabulous piece of scenery, Ian, or if you are kind of captured by the mood, which you could quite easily miss. Ian, you've been quite quiet, mate. What are your thoughts about this movie and the things that we've said so far?
Sorry, just this fly, it's just bothering me.
Bloody hell.
Basically, I did enjoy the movie, but there's a lot of problems with the movie, and it isn't great. The film isn't. Let's face it, isn't great. First of all, right, the thing that really bothered me is that I couldn't see what the ships look like. If you compare Alien and Aliens, you could see the Nostromo, you could see the shape of the Nostromo, you could see it landing. You could draw
at times.
Yeah, no, you could see the Nostromo. There's loads of scenes shots in it, and the same thing with the Sulaco in Aliens. But in this film, could I tell you the shape and what the ship looked like? No, because it was mostly in shadow, and especially the ship they dock with, I couldn't tell you what that looked like at all. But the point I'm trying to make is the beauty of the model work in the first and the second one is far more superior than the CGI. Well, I'm assuming it's CGI. I think they built a model for the ship that
they built. They built models and they augmented it with CGI.
Yeah. So
as always happens these days.
you couldn't see them. And I agree with Sarah and Simon. They would have known if they'd left the planet. Also, the fact that that thing is floating around. Why didn't the company send anybody there to retrieve
Yeah,
it?
why had Weyman-Yutani lost it? How do you lose that?
I must admit I had wondered why they'd got. Well, I suppose the idea was that they knew that the ship had become infested.
Yeah, but that's not the point. The point is it's got material that the company wants to weaponize. So they would send people up there, wouldn't they? They'll send an army up there.
Of course they would.
To actually get their property back.
Of course they would.
Because the stakes remain the same, don't they? And it's still the same sort of gambit. You got the company versus the company who want the creatures, who want the advances in science to do whatever they want to do with it, and then you've got human beings sort of trapped in that battle for basic survival.
I mean, just looking at the aesthetics of the film, I really didn't like the lighting at all. A lot of people say the photography is great. I just think the photography sucks. There was lots of red, there was lots of greens. As I said, if you look at both movies, Aliens and Alien, even though the corridors were dark, you can make out the corridors. You can see different colors. You can see the green of their suits. You can see the blue of the screens. But with this, they just seem to wash it with red or wash it whatever. Far too dark to see what's going on at all, as far as I was concerned. I'm not saying it should be bright or anything like that, but just enough that you can make out what's going on.
Yeah, there was times where I struggled to see. I knew what was going on because we're being told, but especially when they first tried to escape, and she's trying to get away with the ship, and I'm like, well, which bit ship?
Yeah,
which bit
where is
space
she?
Station?
Yeah,
and it was like because it all kind of just looked the same.
Correct.
It's the problem I had with Matt Reeves, the Batman, which was the last film I went to see at the cinema. Funnily enough, most of that seemed to be shot in pitch black. I could barely see what was going on, and so that was 2.5 years ago. This is the first film I've seen since then. I didn't have that problem with this, but there is. It still does kind of belong to that way of filmmaking.
But I would argue, and this is where, again, I would say the difference between a master craftsman, Ridley Scott, and a hack director, which is what we've got on this. Because if you look at Alien, no, seriously, if you look at Alien...
A hack director?
a hack director. So much of Alien is impenetrable darkness. Also, you cannot see what the alien looks like until the very final sequence when it's hanging out of the airlock. You can't tell what bit of the alien you're looking at. I think of the scene, for example, when Brett gets killed in the hangar. You cannot see what is going on. But the point is, it doesn't matter because you're shit scared because it's a fucking good film. And that is the difference between these two films, and that's why this one stands out to me as being by a hack director. I'm sorry.
Didn't
it grip you? Didn't it grip you at all in any way?
Did it entertain me? To be fair, did it entertain me? Totally, 100%. Did I have a couple of hours of fun in the cinema? You bet, absolutely. It's a good popcorn film as long as you disengage your brain.
So your take is that it's not everything that it could have been.
My God, it's far from anything it could have been. Is it a good film? No. Is it even a good Alien film? No, in my opinion. It's a poor film. But I had a ball with it because it's a roller coaster. And I gathered very early on, I'm just going to have to give in on this. It's a poor quality film. But I'm going to go with it and it'll be fun. And it was. And I enjoyed it. I had a cracking time.
When I was watching it, I suddenly realised why Ridley Scott was involved in this. Immediately when they were talking about the Black Goo, I thought, oh God, they've canonized those two other stupid movies. And I thought, why did they?
But they kind of already were anyway.
Yeah, they are canon. I think we have to accept.
I don't know
clearly.
That likes that film personally.
I love them. I really like them.
I hate them.
I hate them.
I was gripped for the first 40, 45 minutes. Once we get to the face huggers, it started to get a bit silly.
Yeah, it does get silly.
Until that, the atmosphere was getting to me, the tension. My only real criticism of the first half is I still didn't know these characters, so why should I care?
Yeah.
When they're getting killed, I didn't care that they were getting face hugged and jumped about them. Whereas the first two films in particular set up so much the characters, you knew everybody's relationship between each other. And I just felt like this was on fast forward. We've got to get to
I
the
do.
action as soon as-
I believe they tried to do that, but yet again, it was a little sparse. They knitted some of the characters together, particularly Rain and Andy, obviously, because they were the two leads in effect. I got the impression there were other relationships connecting some of the other characters' culture, but maybe that was in some of the material that Simon said Ridley told, advised Alvarez to excise.
Look,
Do you think that's feasible?
I would have afforded this film 2.5 hours, which would have given us more of the first act. That would have not only given us a little bit better presentation of the colony and an understanding why the one girl pilots the ship that they all live in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, basically, that's what they were in. I believe is they flew that off the planet, what they were living in.
Oh, okay. I didn't even get that.
And she obviously has the piloting skills to do the mining from maybe the asteroid belt or whatnot.
Yeah.
And the reason that the Romulus and the Remus and Romulus space station was left in that position was because it had a catastrophic event that took out everybody, and they basically isolated it, waiting for it to fall into the asteroid field to be destroyed. So,
okay, I missed that as well.
Yeah. Because the CG, the one CGI thing that
they had 36 hours, wasn't it? Culture.
Yeah.
There was a countdown. Yeah.
Okay. So
I picked up on that.
The ticking clock annoyed me. Let's just call it just one thing they did not need. They just needed the potential catastrophe. The only thing that they really needed to understand is that it's falling into the asteroid belt. I didn't really need the ticking clock, and then I didn't need the ticking clock to accelerate, which it promptly happened at the beginning of the second act. But what I think delineated the station, because I think a lot of people do struggle with that, is you had the museum that divided the two halves of the station, Remus and Romulus. So when you walk through that museum where you get the speech, the lecture about what the station was and everything else, I think that's where the dividing line was, right? Where that orange beauty is right there. So I think that once you crossed into that, you got the little speech, here's that. And then you got into the actual laboratory setting that was like kind of a show place for them, or would have been had this all worked properly for Weyland-Yutani.
Hold on. So where in the film did it say that the company was just waiting for the thing to smash into the rings? And also
I just surmised that, Ian. I'm sorry. Because like I said, I mean, that would make sense if you had a failed experiment and it would, fall into these rocks. It was going to fall into the rocks.
And also,
that was the impression that I got as well.
We know that's not true because the Rook, robot, was doing everything in its power to get that black goo back to Earth, wasn't he? Wasn't it?
This is where I really, really struggled with it. The minutiae of the plot, I was just completely lost. Why did they take the alien from wherever it was they originally got it? This is the original Nostromo alien.
Right.
Why did they take that? Then they took it up to this Romulus and Remus, but then something to do with they got to get the black goo back down to Earth. So on the one hand, they don't want the alien to die, but on the other hand, they want the alien to die. And they don't what? And again, this to me is the difference between, for example, Alien, the original film, which is it's just got one plot thread has Alien, and that's it's either it or us. Either we kill it or it kills us. That's it. There's nothing else in Alien. Alien is just war. That's it. There's nothing else. It's just impenetrable. The script.
See, part of me says, should we really keep harping on about a 45-year-old film that started this legacy when there's been so much in between and pop culture moves on and new creatives come? Hang on. Well, if you let me get there.
Sorry.
And the idea with this sequence of films as regards a legacy is that it's basically the same story that different directors come to. So that would be my usual place that I would go to. But I think that's perfectly viable. But where this film kind of would upend my argument is by diving so deeply and attaching itself not just to some of the lore of Alien itself and the two recent Ridley Scott prequels, but by bringing back very unexpectedly an actual cast member or crew member, character from that said 45-year-old movie. So whilst I wouldn't say it shoots itself in the foot, the comparisons that you're making, that you can't help but go there, because this film takes us directly back there. And I do see worth in it, but in a sense, it's like stepping on a rake, a creative rake, because it means you can't move away from it.
Well, also, you take it further than that. And to me, this was very much trying to be a remake of Alien. You've got the countdown that is the same as the countdown that we have at the end of Alien with Mother. So you got the countdown from the word go. You've got at the end of it, Rain getting into the spacesuit, exactly like Sigourney Weaver did, and blasting the alien out of the airlock, exactly like Ripley did. You know, you've got the same.
Twice. 3 times, if not 4 times. It's the same. It's the same through all the films.
Yeah, and then they use the same stuff about the Queen being blasted out the airlock at the end of Aliens. So this film is very much the greatest hits of Alien and Aliens. Everything about it is a rip-off of it, and I would actually call it member berries. Actually, I think it is. It's all very lazy, even down to the get away from her, you bitch line. It's just laziness.
So, do you think? Because I've been thinking about this since I saw it, because I loved Ian Holm as an actor in multiple things. I think everybody did. He was a key part of the original Alien film, and the character of Rook, I mean, he's very, very memorable how he ends up in that movie. And this is the character that they kind of bring back from the dead or the expired as an integral part of the plot of this film. And it's a gambit that I think it only really half works, and even half might be being generous, because the simple fact is that because by leaning onto this, you're giving the impression that you haven't got the confidence in your own film to survive on its own, that it needs the presence of a legacy character to give it authenticity. You have to accept it because this is the guy, this is the thing. So you've got that, and then we've got the caveat that we always come back to. You look back to Rogue One with Peter Cushing and various other things. The technology still isn't there.
Oh, it's terrible.
You see Ian Holm. We're supposed to accept this is Ian Holm on screen, and we haven't got. I mean, and this is still a secret. This is no reviews mention the fact that Ian Holm plays Rook. Technically plays Rook in this film, even though he died like 4 or 5 years ago. He plays Rook again in this movie through advances in AI. Very few people are talking about it, but it doesn't look like a person because AI, artificial intelligence, CGI still can't do mouths.
No,
it was completely needless because you didn't need AI to do it. You could have had a damaged android and just use his voice. His face could have been all melted if you really wanted to use him, which I don't think they needed it.
I agree. They didn't need it. I mean, the other way I would have got away with it if they were going to do it. They should. And again, I am sorry, but this is why I'm saying it's a hack director, because anybody worth their salt would have looked at that and said, we cannot hang our movie on very, very shoddy CGI recreations of Ian Holm. If they were determined to do it, they could have got away with it more by keeping it almost exclusively in the shadows. You could have lit the Rook from behind and had it almost in silhouette. The voice sold it. Whoever did the voice is superb. The voice sold it. So if they kept him in the shadows, also it looks okay when he's on it. When you're looking at him on one of the monitors, on one of the distorted monitors, again it looks fine. You get away with it, but trusting that the close-up shots on that CGI are good enough on a massive 4K screen, forget it, because they're not.
For people who haven't seen it, who are watching and wondering if this is a cameo or not, this isn't a cameo. The character of Rook is an integral part of this cast and is in it for virtually the entire runtime. Aren't they, Culture? I mean, what do you think about this technology? Did that break the spell a little for you? I have to say, even though I enjoyed this movie quite a lot, I couldn't get past it.
Yeah, well, I settled into it after being shocked by it right at the beginning of the second act. Because it really is kind of shocking. It's like, wow, that guy's dead. But he was actually, they placed a facial mask on him. I mean, he's an incredible actor. It's a shame he's not with us anymore, but he, credited with a lot of great roles. But the actor that played that the character was Daniel Betts. They used the AI to actually recreate his voice from audio references.
Oh, is that what they did? Wow.
Yeah, same thing.
Impressive.
Same thing with the facial structure. So I don't think, because you're going to see more and more of this, but you're going to have actual performers doing it, and they're going to need a better masking tech than they have now. And I think so. I agree with you wholeheartedly there. But I will push back. Here we go again. I will push back on the fact that you only had so many models of these different kinds of, synthetics. So, I mean, obviously Andy's a synthetic. There's hundreds of thousands of him. Same thing with Rook. There's hundreds of thousands of Rooks out there. So it's the same the same thing. So and because you're dealing with a window that would have still had this model being supported, and because of the fact that it takes so long to get from place to place in space, you have to have these cryopods, which are explained in the film and everything else. But the fact that they actually sent out a mining ship to go to the wreckage of the Nostromo and to grab the resin encapsulation of the alien creature from the Nostromo, which is what this basically
I have a big problem with this. We'll
I have a big problem with this as well.
Carry on, culture.
So it took many, many years to get from A to B. And then once it had happened, let's say the 7 to 9 years of position from where the Nostromo is, and reference to this particular Weyland-Yutani world, when they arrive there, they have some catastrophic event happen. The alien wipes out everybody, and does whatever the acid blood thing does when it dies. It basically smoked everything, and there was very little left between the outside of space and what had been done there. And so, I could accept a lot of the premises along the way. Does it reference the previous films, and does it have to? Yes, but they all have done that. I'm not.
Sorry, go on. Sorry, culture. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I don't mind being interrupted. I believe me.
I didn't mean to interrupt. I do apologize.
Oh no. It's just. Like I said, I saw. You don't have to apologize. There's a lot of. Believe me, I'm on shows where I don't get to talk at all. But the weirdest thing is, they're oftentimes they're my shows. But the weirdest thing is that I was able to accept that one part of the station was rather clean, and the other part of the station was rather ruined. And I think that I think that it was easy for me to accept. And if like you didn't like the color grading, Ian, I'm going to tell you right now, I wasn't a fan. I don't like hiding things in the dark, unless it's purposeful. And because, as Simon said, and I agree with him wholeheartedly, that in the first film you had a Jaws situation. That's why Jaws was so effective. And this is why I always look at Alien and Jaws as the same film.
Totally.
Because it is. So you don't have to show everything. No. In fact, you want to wait. You want to have scary jump scare moments, which this film has 9 of, right? But you don't.
I can't.
But you don't need. You don't need what they did at various points with the cringe dialogue, which I think is up there with Rook returning, right? I mean, that was the most controversial thing in the film, is having Rook return. And the other most controversial thing is the dialogue that in 5 instances is stolen from better properties.
Yes.
So you have to argue, is that fan service or is it member berries?
I think I do think it's a little bit of both, but I really do. We need to talk about this, because this to me is the elephant in the room. How the hell did the alien survive? Because very clearly it was blasted away at the end of the first film. It was
3 times.
If you saw the first film, I watched the first film and the second film before I watched this one, right? And there's no doubt about it. When Ripley blew up that ship, there was nothing left.
It's gone. It's gone. And so, my other question is, how did it end up in this sort of cocoon thing that's just floating in space? So the basic, and again, this is where I just immediately disengaged with the film within the first 5 minutes, because I'm like, this cannot work, because the alien did not survive the end of the first film. And the other thing that I have a problem with is, if we are going to buy that there are lots of Ian Holm androids out there, loads of Ashes out there, how did the characters in the original film not know that Ash was a synthetic? It's illogical. It's like somebody having a smartphone, an Apple phone, and not knowing that there are millions of Apple phones out there. This is the only one.
It wasn't common practice, because if you remember in the first film, the Nostromo had its own science officer, and he got replaced last minute by Ash. They did not know. And then by the time we've got to the second film, then it's common practice for
Okay,
synthetic on
I'll do
board.
you one
And that's
better.
57 years later, so
Yeah.
we can buy that
Hold on.
one.
I'll do you one better, right? So the idea is that black goo will make humans more better so they can survive
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
they're doing.
It's accelerated evolution.
But they've got androids. Why don't
I
you
know,
put
that's my other point, Ian. It's
so they can survive.
they've
They can
already
either die
made.
or it
They
doesn't
kept
matter, does
saying.
it?
They
Yeah.
kept saying it was to make the perfect worker. They've already got the perfect worker in
They've got
synthetics.
androids. Yeah, they've got
It
androids.
was
So
supposed to be the perfect weapon
what is that
going
all
forward.
about?
That's how I always understood it. So why the sudden? So that made no sense.
But as I say
Well,
to me,
in the real world, I mean, you try telling somebody like Elon Musk or James Dyson that, okay, you've invented like the perfect vacuum cleaner. You might as well retire now and don't bother trying to improve it. I think, and that's a benevolent inventor.
Yeah.
Imagine a really nasty one.
Bloody- I've just got
But I'd say
visions
it
of an Hoover being like an alien now.
the problem is the whole film just starts to fall apart on an absolutely atomic level, because once you start to pick at these holes, and as I say, you look again at Alien and Aliens, then there is nothing in those films that doesn't make sense. I defy anybody to actually pick at anything in that film and say, no, hold on, that doesn't add up.
No, I have to agree with that. And there were things about this that absolutely didn't make sense to me and didn't quite hang together. And I think there's a clear point as they go into Act 3 culture whereby they introduce an element. The tone doesn't necessarily change, but they amp up the crazy on this. It's a case of up to a certain point, it's like jump scares. It's pretty much what you'd expect, and then they really go for it and they throw in everything but the kitchen sink just to see people's reactions to various twists and turns to the story. It's one of those films that you think it's ended and then it starts again at least twice.
At least twice.
I was frustrated. Look, man, if you could hear my review right now, I was so mad at that. I'm like, pick an ending, please. I don't want this to go on, and I think that's the disjointed part of the film was the you had a good middle part. You had a good middle part. You missed a lot at the, in the first act. Again, I think that ended up on the cutting room floor, as Simon suggested, because I really would have loved to have seen just how terrible this colony was that they were in. I think Noah Hawley's probably going to explore that on his 10-episode streaming show that may go on for years if it's good. So I will have to see. But, if it's good, I mean, I'm up for it. I'd like to see, just how bad these corporations are. I want to see the exposure of these terrible corporations that live in this world. But regardless, I think that the second act had its problems, but it holds together better for me than any of you, it sounds like. But the third act was just a hot mess. Why did you give us 3 endings? Potentially 4. Why did that have to happen? I don't understand. There's a solution
Do you think it's a lack of confidence, or do you think it's a lack of discipline actually crafting those earlier portions of the film? Any idea, Ian?
I think Fetty as a writer is pretty okay. As a director, I mean, you have to consider it's been a few years since he did a big film. I think the last big film he did was
Don't Breathe,
Evil
was
Dead.
it?
Well, I guess Don't Breathe would be considered a big film.
Like 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, I was going to say, and Evil Dead was even farther back than that. But I feel like, I think this is a CGI generated image, but I don't remember that in the film.
No, this is publicity artwork. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, I don't remember that in the film. But no, I thought, like you said, that we saw a lot of things we'd never seen before. But what was most galling to me, outside of obviously, Rook being so undercooked CGI wise, was the appearance of Offspring.
Yes.
And while that happened,
not the band, The Offspring. You're talking about a creature, aren't you? A creature later on in the story.
Yeah, the creature, that it just was reminiscent of just one of the worst Alien franchise films ever. But look, at the same time, you knew they had to connect those two together, and you knew that it kind of like I expected it, but ultimately, I think my pushback always is going to be, outside of those 4 endings, is that in consideration of everything else we've been getting in sci-fi, they didn't ruin anything.
Well, they didn't ruin anything, would you say?
Yeah, that's what I said.
But they
Yeah,
took
didn't
they took
ruin
all the
anything.
toys. They took all the toys back out of the playbox, and then at the end of the film, they kind of pretty much put them back where they found them. Nothing. There were no pieces missing. Nothing's been lost, ruined, desecrated, destroyed, torn down to remake it in the image of some political point.
Exactly. There was no deconstruction in this film.
Well, there was a tiny bit, because if this is before Aliens, then that means Ripley's line to the Queen alien isn't her line, so that knocked me off a bit.
Yeah, I agree. I had a problem
It's
with
fan service for us because we've already seen it.
That is an instance. That's an instance of an undisciplined filmmaker who couldn't resist a moment, because that moment where that character, a character I loved, easily the best character in the movie, says that line, just immediately gives it a postmodern feel. And Alien films, I've never been postmodern. This world is not that world. This isn't Thor Ragnarok.
Well, I'll ask you a question then, because you guys are going to nail it out of the park when I ask. So, it wasn't it also kind of oddly ironic that it was a male stealing a line from a powerful female?
I see what you did there. Very good point.
That's allowed culture because it wasn't a white straight man. You see,
he's high on the progressive stack.
I would argue that what you've just, the way you've just described it there, Dan, he's a hack director. I know I keep coming back to this, but again. You look at the original Alien, and it's and I know I keep coming back to this, but as you say, Dan, they invite comparison. Yeah,
I'm afraid they do. I hate admitting it, but they do.
That's an absolutely laser focused film. It knows exactly what it's doing, and it gets on and does it. Whereas this film, as Coulter has said, the number of endings in this film, there is no restraint. Alien is very, very heavily restrained. It's focused, as I say. There's nothing extraneous. Whereas with this film, they just can't restrain themselves. They can't resist it. They can't stop themselves. We're going to have acid for blood floating everywhere. Now we're going to have millions of aliens. Now we're going to have that the lift is coming down. Now it's going to be coming back up again. Now the alien is outside and it's it's cracking the screen, the globe on her face mask. They just can't. Hold on a second, Ian. They just can't stop themselves, because they have no confidence in what they're trying to do. It's a hack director. Ian, over to you.
You know what, right? Look, the direction was okay, right? But the problem is it's the script. The script was really bad. It didn't. The logic flaws in the script was all over the place. It just somebody should have just sat down and go, wait, this doesn't make any sense. The whole Nostromo blew up. Why is there bits left? And just go right through the script.
None of it worked. None of it made sense.
Going to your point about how many endings there were in this film, do you realize in the original Alien, the ending where she puts the spacesuit and everything on wasn't in the script? Basically, Ridley Scott begged them to give him more money so they could have that ending. So he added that ending on when she blew up the ship, was meant to be dead. But they added that ending on as well. But I totally agree with you. I mean, this film could have been so much better if they applied logic to it. Yeah, totally.
And restraint.
I don't mind Ian Holm being in it. If he just showed up in the beginning and then he was gone, that's fine. It's a nice little tribute to him. But being the main villain just didn't work for me. It just really didn't work for me. But
he was an easy villain to foil. But again, I mean, there were some elements in this that I certainly appreciated. Some things that were rather inventive, but I think had they not done a couple of things in here, I think a lot of people would have had less pushback on the film overall. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I obviously enjoyed it more than many of you, which is fine.
I enjoyed it.
And I don't think it's a great film. I said as much in my review. I think it's a good film, and it's something that we haven't had good go-to popcorn movies in a long time. We need Predator. We need Cobra. We need some. Go ahead. No, please.
We should talk about the sequence where now the face huggers can hear and was it reactor sound and all that? Do you remember that bit? And
Yeah, I
then,
don't want
when the
But
guy had
See,
written all this,
those are elements though where those are elements of new
why did you
material.
just take it off and
Because
throw it away.
there were new elements to this, which I did appreciate the being present. I mean, later on in the show, you're going to get all of our scores out of 5 on this movie. The computer is working away already, so maybe they'll have calculated in half an hour or so. But yeah, what a great conversation so far. We've been very fortunate to have Culture Casino with us as well, taking part in this. Thank you so much for your contributions. I understand you're going off now to film yet more videos in the casino, but we can tempt you back at a later date, I hope.
Oh, indeed. I like I said, this was a wonderful invitation, and there's no way I would have missed coming on here. So of course, as I can and as you wish, I'll try to appear. But one last thing, there were elements in this you had to pay attention to, which is a problem. Exposition dialogue and things like that were taking place. You had to be very observant. So when it comes to the new developments that are coming out of the face huggers at that particular facility, there's a reason for that. And that reasoning being that they also had 3D printers. I would suggest that the biological life forms there in that lab were 3D printed. The boxes that were on the wall where all the
I wondered about that. That's where that all come from.
Yeah, those were all 3D printed biologically and then held in stasis. So when they pulled the cryo tube out, obviously it unfroze them. Or removed
that went completely over my head.
I got confused. Why just by pulling out the power pack and we sort of get again? It's just exposition that just. Yeah, and I'm thinking about stuff, and I shouldn't be. I should just be going along with the ride.
Yeah, and again, I point out at several points during my review and then on other channels I've appeared on talking about this film that there were elements of dialogue exposition that were not helpful, and if you blinked, you missed it. Same thing with the visual exposition. So I think that there was a lot of context missed by a lot of people that went to see the film because they weren't looking at that minutia, which unfortunately gets stuck in my head.
I think it's one of the. Some of the actors as well, because I've had a lot of complaints where people said some of the actors were mumbling.
Yeah,
I couldn't understand what they were saying.
I also think, as Simon suggested before I leave, I promise I'll leave. But
you can stay for as long as you like.
But
we love you being here.
But I think Simon's right in that because so much ended up on the cutting room floor, you didn't understand the relationship between the guy that was a total jerk and the girl that was Dora the Explorer.
I got the impression that if he wasn't the father of her child, then they were originally they were together before she got knocked up by some other dude.
Yeah, actually, and well, he wouldn't have known, obviously, but regardless, I don't want to go into the rest of it, but there was a lot of stuff that was definitely left on the cutting room floor. That would be one of those things. But I have to, as you mentioned, I have to step out. Can I get my rating very quickly?
Of course you can, mate. Go and take the floor.
So I have to stick in a 5 within a 5-point rating. If I'm assuming 5 is the best here. So
yeah, 5. Up to 5.
All right. Yeah. Again, not a great film, a good film. 2.75.
Working fractionally.
Well, I have to. I love to be consistent throughout. But honestly, when I rate something 1 to 10, I always like to revisit the idea a few days later, and I'll tell you that this dropped from an 8 from an 8 for me out of a 10 scale to a 7.5. And it may still descend, but a lot of it is much of what you mentioned. But I think a lot of people will find conflicts along the way if they compare it to the previous films. And yeah. Anyway, I'll step out. Thank you very much for having me. It was a great pleasure. You were all wonderful people.
Great to have you back. It's Culture on X at Culture Casino and on YouTube as well. Go and find you there. Are you anywhere else? You want to drop any more links?
Just the Green Machine thing, Rumble and Minds and Getter and go on.
Green Machine?
Yeah, they call it the Green Machine. Yeah.
I do know.
YouTube is not a fan of the use of the word Rumble. I try not to use that much. But
thanks for the tip.
I'm going to step away. Yes. And I will try to listen in the background while I compose material for the 10 or 12 videos I got to do today. Anyway, I got to go.
Hang on in there, mate. Good luck. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is the Spacebook Live on Alien Romulus. It was released on August the 16th, 2024, directed by Fede Alvarez and starring Kaylee Spaney in the lead role of Rain. There, the quasi Ripley, the half-pint version of Ripley that we get in this movie. So that was Culture Casino. Go and find him. We've still got a lot to cover here on the show. We've got lots of people commenting in the live chat as well. I think we should go over and see what they've got to say before we make our way back and give you some scores on this one. How about that? Thank you, everybody, for your patience while we break this one back in. Much appreciated. Gary Akers is a big fan of Culture Casino. I'm glad he's here. Well, it was great to have him back. It had been a while. It had. We've got Stephen Braddock in the live chat, who thanks you for your kind words, Sarah.
Oh, you're very welcome, Stuart.
Just generally.
You're recovering.
We've got Mo Share there in the live chat as well. Grand Moff Miranda says that I always thought Alien is American. I think, again, it's debatable. Alien 3 had a lot of British rude words, though, and this is the same, isn't it? There's something about the tone of this, I think, Simon, and this is another, I wouldn't describe it as a stumbling block, but there are lots of British accents in this, and a lot of bad language as well.
Yeah, that was that was the least of my problems, to be honest. I didn't. It didn't. I quite liked hearing the English accents, to be honest. But I got really, really confused as to whose brother and whose sister and whose partners and whose love. I haven't got a clue. I still don't know.
I have one problem with a certain swearing. When Rain says that line that Hudson says in Aliens, again, it doesn't ring true because it's coming out like...
I can't even think which line that was, Sarah.
Die, mother.
Oh, yes, of course.
Coming out of a Marine.
Yeah.
Yes. Coming out when I don't think she's swore. The other characters have sworn. She's almost like, she's not sweet as such, but you know what I mean? She's not.
Well, and also...
With that.
And also, if we're going to be brutally honest, I don't think an android would say, you bitch. He might say, get away from her. That's about all
he delivered that line as if it was almost part of his programming, or as if it was a line from a movie that he'd seen, that character had seen whilst he'd been grown up with a family. So, but he can't have seen Aliens, firstly, because this is meant to be in the same world, and secondly, it hadn't been made. So it really does. It does break the spell. It was a moment of lapsed judgment. James Woolard in the live chat says Romulus is as bad as Covenant. We're going to stick to the comments, everybody, that are relevant to the particular topic, but we have to, because this is a review show. But it's great to see you all. Of course it is. We haven't got the time for individual hellos, but it's great to see everybody here. And Disinferno says it was a trash movie. You said a hack director, Simon. Disinferno would say it makes for a trash movie.
Yeah, to be clear, I did enjoy it. I had a whale of a time. Will I ever watch it again? Not a chance in hell of me ever watching it.
As soon as it's got no rewatchability.
Not at all. So I'd say I had a cracking 2 hours with some popcorn in a theatre. Brilliant. But it is a trash movie. Sorry.
But given the fact, would you firstly, would you be tempted? You've seen it twice here. Would you be tempted by a director's cut with all that stuff that they took out?
No.
Or would you be tempted by a rewatch, given the fact of the things that Culture said, that some of the things that were in there that passed us by? Because I'm probably going to go back to this as soon as I can.
To me personally, it simply isn't a good enough film. I don't like the characters enough. I do think it was just overcooked. As I say, it was relentless. They didn't know when to stop. No, it was a poor movie. It was a fun movie, but no, once only for me.
Disinferno goes on to say it's nothing more than fan service. I think I wouldn't go so far as to say that. There was a lot more in this than fan service, which I'll come to in a little while.
It was obsessed with fan service. But fair to say it was obsessed.
But the fan service is the nail in the tyre that stops this from travelling where it needs to go.
Spot on, Dan. Spot on.
Svi Lebetkin, he's the rabbi from another planet, and he's in our live chat as well. He says, for me, it was more of an alien ride or experience. I think Alien Earth, that's the TV show that the Culture mentioned that's coming in January, will be more innovative. And innovation is the lifeblood of this franchise. Ian, is innovation the lifeblood of the Alien franchise?
It is, because if you look at Alien and Aliens, I mean, James Cameron took it in another direction. Look, I'll always say this. The problem with this film is the script. It really is. The logic behind it.
I agree.
That's the main problem. That's it.
I agree.
And also, if you look at the characterizations, if you can call them that, from Aliens and Alien, they do things so that you know who they are. Like Dallas does something, so you know he's a company man. He says that line where he says the company tells you what we should do. Yeah. And then you look at Hudson.
You believe in them as people.
Yeah. So you look at Hudson, and you know Hudson is the funny one, and you know Vasquez is the this person.
It's the gung ho one.
Exactly. And but in this film, right, there was nothing apart from Andy and the main character. Everybody else was just flat
and disposable, cannon fodder.
I did like the character. Was it Spike, the guy who was probably the father of the child? He was the character. He'd got the kind of the anti-hero. He was the Paul Darrow Avon kind of character. I think we were supposed to. He was very aggressive. Very foul-mouthed and quite nasty on the surface, prejudiced towards the Andy being an android. So we were meant to dislike him, but that relationship developed very subtly, and he got a lot more interesting. But it doesn't, because he never. Within about 5 minutes of him starting to grow, he's then killed. And so that ultimately goes nowhere either. I think he was the character we were meant to invest in and see a change in. But I think it was all. I think that maybe that was the cut material as well, because it did seem very, very choppy to me, even more on reflection.
But also, what part of the problem for me with the script, and Ian is absolutely right, the key problem with this film is the script. And one of the main problems for me was the characters, from the point of view of it was obvious to me from within the first 10 minutes who was going to be the final girl. It was obvious who was going to get to the end. It was also obvious who was going to be killed first, and it was the gobby little shites that nobody liked. So it was just so predictable. Whereas, again, you look at Alien and it blindsides you. You don't expect.
Yeah, you never know who's going to go where.
Never know.
I almost thought it was going to be the pregnant woman, and I have to call her that. I've got no idea what her name was. That was her role. She was the pregnant woman.
But it takes a brave scriptwriter to actually do something like.
Yeah, that's why he's a hack director.
If you go back more so a couple of years, and you watch the Poseidon Adventure, did anyone know that Gene Hackman was going to die? The main star of the film, no one, but he did. So that's what I'm saying. So they should have done something like this with it.
Yeah, it needed something.
The issue is, this director is clearly a fan of the franchise. This was his vanity project. This film did not need to be made, whereas I think the TV show might stand a better chance, because people have been dying to see aliens on Earth. This is what a lot of fans have been wanting for a very long time. But
it's not set. It's not. It's set. It's set. I think it's today. That one. So that's weird. It's
apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, really? It's not set in the future. It's set today. And it's like, well, wait a moment. If it happened now, then how comes nobody talked about it in the future?
That's a weird thing.
Well, we're in a few weeks' time, we're going to have a retrospective of the Alien series, the whole thing, with Bowles Trek on the panel as well. He's got in touch today and said how much he'd like to do that. So we're putting that together. So we will be talking more Alien, the general length and breadth of Alien, and where it could go in the future on a future edition of the show. Komodo says, I quite enjoyed it, but Andy was goddamn annoying, as were a couple of the other characters. Yes, even a gasp from Simon Horton.
Andy was, for me, the best thing. He was the only thing of any interest in this film.
It was a superb character that exhibited so much growth, and the performance was so subtle and beautifully balanced. I have never seen this actor before. Apparently he's in that HBO Bad Wolf series Industry, which it just didn't look like my thing, but in this he was fantastic. And for me, everything that Johnson did in this role was everything that, Michael Fassbender, an actor who I really love, but in the character of David in Ridley Scott's two most recent films, I couldn't relate to the character at all. I couldn't invest. He was like a blank slate. But with this, a synthetic person like this, I really felt for this character in a way that I didn't even for Kaylee Spaney's lead character, the final girl character.
He was the only one you wanted to see get to the end of the film, I have to inside. I was secretly hoping he would just float off into space on his own, that the rest of the cast would all be dead, and he would be left in the ship on his own. Just floating
and he would survive. And he would survive, yeah. Where were the older people in this movie? Says Stephen Braddock. There are older actors in there, but again, it is part of the story. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't describe it as contrived. It is part of the actual story. There's a reason why they're all young people. But it's because it's not sold by a robust script. It's difficult to remember who's who, where they're from, what they want, and where they're going.
Well, and also I did find it very, very difficult to believe that this bunch of Gen Z kids would actually go through with something like this. I never believed in a microsecond that they'd want to put their lives at risk to do this. It just didn't make any sense to me.
There's an element where they try and make it out as if Kaylee Spaney's character Rain, they try and portray her as older than her years, if she's got the weight of the world on her shoulders. And quite honestly, and I think that works up to a point, because I've never seen this actress in anything. Apparently she played Priscilla Presley in a recent biopic, and I hear she's really good in that. But in my view, she was great in this. It was a good performance in a relatively humdrum character. And so I was impressed with her, and I'd like to see her in other things. But I still wasn't that interested in knowing more about her. I didn't feel like I was watching any kind of hero's path at all. I was just far more interested in Andy. And to be honest, and the girl who was pregnant, because obviously she's like only about 20, 21, 22. You know, she looks like a baby, and here she is in that situation. So I was like rooting for her more so.
Well, and in all honesty, I preferred, as a character, the gobby one who we were supposed to dislike, because at least he got something about him. At least he's got some interest to him, and he was a bit fun to watch.
Not many fans of the Ian Holmes CGI in the live chat. It's just not there yet. They're going to keep trying, and I can see why this was difficult to not try in some respects. But
they could have used Lance Henriksen, who played Bishop, is still alive. Surely
they couldn't, because according to Aliens, he was created because of the twitches and the irregular,
But as I say, a good director would so easily have found a way around that. You just backlight him, you sidelight him, you keep him on monitors, and it would have worked. You don't put him in massive close-up. Simple as that.
Or they could have done what they did in Alien 3, where they actually had a working model of Bishop, didn't they? And it did look a lot like, remember in the beginning where she plugs him in?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was a working model, and it was just his voice. They could have
but you'd have struggled to. I think you'd have struggled with that, Ian, simply because of the amount of screen time that Rook has. I think.
What I'm saying is that the reason why the Bishop model works is because it was all busted up and everything. So they could have done the same.
They could have done. I see what you mean. They could have done that, and they could have covered him in all the milk that Ash is covered in the first film. And you'd have got away with it more,
Yeah, you would have got away with it.
John Yulden is watching in the live chat. John, he asks, does Romulus have the dancing alien from Spaceballs? If not, I will be very disappointed. I'm afraid, yeah, you're going to come away from this film very, very disappointed, my friend.
Well,
and never mind.
They did a kind of bit of dancing if you count when the gravity's off and they're floating about.
That was another thing that really, really annoyed me. These idiot kids that I'm supposed to care for, they've clocked that the gravity drops every so often and then comes back on. So they're aware of that because as they're going through the crawl space, and then they come out the other end into the massive cavern, and they're just floating around having awareness. Have they forgotten what happened 10 seconds ago? That any second now the gravity's going to come back on again, and they're going to die. I think that's why I felt a little bit seasick with this film, because the stakes kept getting cranked up like that, because the zero-G thing was very effective, and that's one of the things that I did like about this film, and I'm going to give Fede Alvarez credit for as co-writer and director, in that there were
new ideas in this that we've not seen in this franchise before, and that we've not seen realized on screen like this before, very effectively portrayed. But they raise the stakes like that, and then it seems to drop back down again. It never gets, it doesn't crank up and up and up and up. It goes back, it goes forward, then it goes back, then it goes forward, then it goes back. And
but then again, it's just where I find it so frustrating, and I keep on coming down to this. It's a poor director with poor choice, because all you had to do with that to make it really, really effective is you don't put the sequence in when they are in the crawl space. You keep the crawl space in, but you don't have the floating rat. You don't identify there and then that there are gravity shifts. You wait until they're floating out in open space in the hall, and then suddenly the gravity comes back on and they drop, and then you've got a really effective reveal of these gravity coming back on and off. But you don't. He signposted it a minute before, and then made his characters look stupid for not saying, "Folks, we better stay close to the ground because the gravity could come on at any second." It's crackers. It's poor judgment.
Several people in the live chat are paying tribute to the late Ian Holm, who died about 4 or 5 years ago. He was 88 years of old, and he passed away with cancer. So some people didn't know he was dead, like nobody important here in the live chat watching on YouTube, and Lee Smith here, who also pays tribute to the late Ian Holm. So I did wonder whether this was respectful and whether his family must have approved.
They did. It did say, I checked this, it did say on the end credits, words to the effect of approved, thanks to the estate of Ian Holm. But I still have a fundamental problem with this. Look, Ian Holm was a fine, accomplished actor. Would he be happy appearing in this film in really awful CGI? The simple answer is no, he wouldn't. It's not right. We shouldn't be doing this.
To me, it almost feels like grave robbing.
It is grave robbing, Sarah.
And all of it, I felt the same with Peter Cushing.
I agree. The Peter Cushing was equally atrocious in the Star Wars film, and they just shouldn't be doing this. It's unfair. We should not be doing this.
Because things have improved since Rogue One, but only incrementally. We're still, it
didn't look any better to me, I must be honest, than the Cushing.
I didn't, to tell you the truth, I didn't mind it, and also I was really taken aback how they did Peter Cushing, but then looking at it now, it looks really bad.
Oh, it's poor.
I didn't really mind it. The only thing I minded was that they carried on with him. They should have just showed him once and just a nice little.
The first reveal, I kind of like gasped.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, that's
when they kept going back to it, and he's just there.
It should have just been.
It was the last thing you expected.
The plot.
But when he's face down on the floor, and you think, "Oh, is that Rook?" And you think, well, I don't really need to see him to know. The longer we spend in that environment, I suppose it would have become more obvious. But when they lift him up and plonk him on the desk, and there he is, there's Ian Holm talking and passing the time of day with all these people, that was when I started to think, is this really appropriate? Is this exploitative in any way? Is this grave robbing even? All of those things did pass through my head, and it broke. And again, these are things that didn't break the spell. It was repeating the line, "Get away from her, you bitch," that broke the spell. But it was. I was wrestling with it. I was wrestling with it.
Broken a lot earlier than that. What was the other line, Ian?
The other line when he was on the camera and he said, "I don't break your chances, but you have my sympathy."
Well, this is it. This is the repurposed dialogue, and it's just.
I didn't pick up on that. I didn't pick up on that at all.
I think had it been, as I say, a very much kept in the shadows as a cameo only, we wouldn't be sitting here slagging it off. But unfortunately, you say you invest your film on a poor CGI creation, and you're asking for trouble. It's just never going to work. And I couldn't also understand, Ian, what was frustrating with this was suddenly this Rook character is ubiquitous throughout the whole film. He's watching everything that all of the. I don't know how he managed to see everything that all these characters are up to and managed to comment to them all. How did he do that?
He was plugged into the system, wasn't he?
I know, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. But that just like, yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, again, I would say it was a badly written script, and there was no. They should have thought logically about how it works, and they didn't. So I don't know. Yeah.
We are reviewing Alien Romulus, released just a week or so ago here. All spoilers all the time, everybody. Got a comment here from our mate Jack here in the live chat. Jack from
Hello,
the
Jack.
Nerd Den, who says, "Hi, everyone. I got so excited to receive
Hi,
a notification that you guys were talking about this film. I'd have invited you if I'd known you'd seen it. I personally enjoyed it," says Jack. "However, the ending was a bit of a mess for me. And that CGI for the android." So again, even for Jack too, it's coming back to Ian Holmes, Sarah.
Yeah, well, there's no getting away with it. I mean,
No.
to me, it kind of feels like there was some good ideas in there. It's almost like it was
Lots of great
two
ideas.
films
Yeah.
kind of shoved together. It's like the first half is definitely stronger
Yes.
than the second, and they all just. I don't
Well,
know,
also,
oh,
like as you said, Sarah, once suddenly there are millions of face huggers everywhere, it begins to get silly, and it just gets sillier and sillier. And so I just find that so frustrating in any film when it just starts to get silly. The first hour, you're quite right, although it still really wasn't my bag. It had some merit to it, but as it starts to get silly, you're just literally, just banging your head, thinking, surely you can't get any sillier, and it just kept on getting sillier.
I don't know. I just think it doesn't work personally. I've seen it twice. I saw it the first time I saw it.
Really?
So
Yeah,
why
well-
did you go back and see it a second time? Because I can't wait to see this. I wouldn't see it again theatrically, but why did you?
Because my friends were going, like, Ian, do you want to go to? I said, I really feel it. Like, you've got to come. So I had to say, but also, right, don't be fooled about the practical stuff. A majority of it's invisible CGI effects
Yes.
in there. There's hundreds and thousands. Even I go as far as to say there are hundreds, not thousands. But yeah, there are a lot of effects in there that you just don't see. So.
what was
I
the
don't know.
response in the cinema, guys? Because it played pretty well,
Muted.
but when Andy says that line, there was a bit of a chunter.
Everybody groaned in the cinema I was in. Pretty much everybody groaned. It was a very muted response where I saw it. It didn't feel particularly well received.
The screening that I went to, there was only about a dozen, maybe 20 people there. It was the middle of the afternoon, and I must say that you could have heard a fish fart in that cinema. The tension really, maybe that's why, because this film worked for me. I'm largely in line with what Culture said. This film really, really worked for me. You could have heard a pin drop, and there was lots of gasps and real tension in the air. The funniest thing that happened was when we left, and I made a beeline for the gents, because obviously there's no ad break. I made a beeline for the gents.
Bless you, me too.
I made a beeline for the gents, and as I was going out, as I was coming back out of the gents, I came face to face with these two Dorises that they'd left the cinema a bit slower than I had. They'd left the theatre slower than I had, and they were going, "Oh, I do wish they wouldn't have it up so loud." I had to turn off my hearing aid.
Oh, bless her.
So that was the highlight for me.
A couple of people laughed at the offspring. Is that what we're calling him?
The offspring.
Yeah,
Daryl Joyce says
Daryl
Joyce says they would have got away with that line if Andy hadn't have added the "you bitch" at the end. I agree.
Yes.
I was hanging that pause in between "get away from her" and "you bitch" seemed like about 30 seconds to me, because I was thinking, don't say it, don't say it.
Everybody was thinking, don't say it. Yeah.
The actor looked embarrassed to say it, to be honest.
Yeah.
When he killed, so basically they fell down this lift shaft, and when they fell down, he shot him. So it only works for if the script, the stuff works to push forward the script. He should have fell through that floor, because once he killed that alien, all that acid would have come out, and that it would have caused a hole in the floor. And
I know.
Is it I'm saying? Majority of the script, right? The laws that they created, they just threw it out the way just to move the story along, and it just,
I agree.
That's bad.
It really needed somebody to go through with a scalpel and really fine tune that script. It was a shoddy script that hadn't been polished.
I mean, going back to the human sort of xenomorph hybrid offspring character, I'd assumed that was CGI. But it wasn't. He's played by a real bloke. This is Robert Bobakratsky, who is a former Romanian basketball player.
Wow.
And he played the offspring in that final act of the film very effectively. I thought, on one hand, you'd got Rook, not realised particularly well, and then you'd got that. And say what you like about where the film goes and the conclusion, it is killing. It is nightmare fuel. And yeah, I'd assumed it was all done by CGI, but it was this guy here, bless him.
But
it was augmented by CGI.
Exactly. This is the thing, Ian. This is the problem I've got. If they had just stuck him in a rubber suit and again kept him in the shadows, like you should be doing with this stuff, it would have worked. But no, they had to show him in full light. And so Ian's right. It's just CGI augmented again. So it looks like a CGI creation. So what's the point of using a real person if you're then just going to slather it with CGI and smooth out all the rough edges? There's no point. It's just people don't know when to stop with CGI.
I didn't like how everything was so fast forward as well. Everything grew super fast.
That was incredible. Where did that? What happened there?
Again, that I got whiplash because it happened a few times. Like, so like the pregnant girl, she's cocooned, but she's not there long enough to be a host, despite there being loads of aliens there. But the Asian girl, the pilot, gets impregnated within seconds. I don't know. I thought
it's about 5 minutes.
Took a couple of days when it was Kane or anybody
Absolutely.
else. But now it's just
and also when the chest burster then escapes from her, when the chest burster comes out of her, literally within minutes, it's suddenly full-size alien. And likewise with whatever the humanoid thing was at the end, that was literally seconds. It had just come out as a baby. Seconds later, it's got feet this big and it's leaving footprints. How does that happen?
Remember that scene in it where it does come out and her foot pushes onto the pedal, and the ship flew out, and then it flew right back into the the landing bay, so they could make their way towards the ship. That ship could have just flown out there and just gone. Do you know what I mean? And the idea of it coming back and going back into that area just didn't make any sense to me at all. It was just, it's convenient to the story to push the story along. And that's how bad the script was. They did.
Well, this is the thing with convenience as well. Now, if you can explain it, I think there was a tiny bit of an explanation. So, I mean, everything that happened to that pregnant woman, she would no longer be pregnant, realistically.
Yeah.
Well, the massive drop of about 20 foot, I assumed she lost the baby as soon as that happened.
So, yeah, and I wondered if we were going to. That's why she injects herself. It's to save the baby because the baby's dying.
Well,
it's never explained that.
Well, Sarah, again, I had this real problem. She wasn't really compos mentis when they were talking about the black goo in the injector as to what it was going to do. She wasn't compos mentis. So why was she just sitting there and she just thought, oh, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get this black goo for no apparently good reason. I'm just going to inject it in the back of my neck. If Rain's character had said to her, look, just stay here. If you still start to feel really bad and there's no choice, you could try injecting yourself with this black goo, but it might kill you. But no, she just does it for no reason. I'm just gonna inject myself.
But also the main character actually says, I don't trust this. Because when Rook was saying this is this could save humanity, she was going, No, you're talking.
I know. So why would you inject yourself with it?
Exactly.
It's just crack for no reason. Because at that point in the script, she felt absolutely fine. So why would she inject herself?
To take us to the next place. To take us to the next place, he wants us to go as a very self-conscious movie. I mean, I don't think that this is all fan service. I wouldn't describe this as a pastiche. In any way, it's a proper. But it is swipe.
The greatest hit.
It's a proper swipe at an alien movie, but it is dogged by the idea that just get out there and play Waterloo, ABBA. It's that kind of thing.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I'd go on further, Simon. It's a greatest hits played by a cover band.
That's exactly what it is. That's what it feels like, Sarah.
I can't dismiss Feddy like that. I thought that the amount of tension that I did feel, I can't. I think that there's real talent there, and some of the sequences, some of the set pieces, the stuff with the acid hanging in 0G, fantastic, and the way it moved, the way it felt, how I believed in, was rooting for the characters. There were moments like that again, because the script wasn't or everything it could have been. I thought to make it come to life anyway, in spite of that, I do think there was a lot. I think there's a lot more in this film, but I accept that I'm just one opinion here. We've got Star Hoovian in the live chat who says, I thought the actors who played Rain and Andy and Kay did a really good job, but the rest of the cast were unbearable and the writing was dire throughout. Overall, it's a huge disappointment. So Star Hoovian is very much in line with you there, Simon. I mean, the thing is, any ensemble cast, we know how these films work. Alien movies are monster movies. The humans are there to be eaten, basically, like they are in any monster movie. The idea is for it to work, for the script has to almost make you trick you into forgetting you're watching a monster movie. So you invest in those characters in spite of the fact you know they're going to get eaten in anywhere between 20 minutes and an hour down the line. It's going to end one way. So to sort of to wrong foot you and to play with your emotions like that. But the simple fact of the matter is that because the characterization isn't quite up to scratch, which is a pity because I do think the cast was good and they were hungry and I was surprised by how well they were inhabiting the roles. Because it isn't up to scratch, that affects the ability that we have as the audience to invest in the entire plot.
And it is a shame because, as we have said, that it had its moments. There's no two ways about it. The one sequence that I really did like, I thought worked very, very well, was when, and I'm glad somebody has just, was it Star Hoovian that reminded us the name of the character there, and it was Kay, who was pregnant. And I liked that sequence when there was, I think, was it her character? You see, I literally haven't got a clue which character it was. It was a female character stuck on the other side of the door, and Andy would not let them open the door, and the alien came down and got her. That was a good sequence. That was nicely directed. Well done. That's the kind of stuff I want to see, and that's believable. That was the way that was played out and directed and scripted. I believed it. That's his Alien to me. So it had its moments, but they were just very few and far between.
It was as if she was sort of sucked up into oblivion or something like that.
But then you look at the other sequence that we talked about earlier, where they're making their way through this hive of facehuggers, and they cannot make a sound. Otherwise, they know exactly what's going to happen. So one of them just starts talking on the phone, and the other characters aren't saying, "Shut the up," because we're all going to die. They just stand there. It's just it's mind-numbingly.
See, it is a little bit silly. Not all of it makes sense, but I think, in my view, it's the fact that the director does invest it with a great deal of tension, and I think it has got that dankness, the feeling of isolation and dystopia and hopelessness that lines up with the rest of the franchise. I felt like I was in the same place. It wasn't exactly like going home, because it's somewhere when you sort of hanker for a film like this, to be effective, and then when you get there you think, oh god, I don't like this, and it really crept up on me. So much of it worked for me, but looking specifically at Kaylee Spaney in the lead, I say I've not seen her in anything before, so I don't know how she lines up with the general Hollywood landscape. Is she D-list, C-list, B-list or A-list in? I've no idea, but for me, this is where it did kind of fall down, and where ultimately I will get to the point where I may even forget that they made this, because even though Kaylee Spaney is good in this role, she inhabits it really well, plays it well, it's a good performance. These films, we don't go to watch an alien film for the human characters. The clue is in the name. It's called Alien. The alien itself is always the star. Therefore, it's not adequate to simply have a solid actor lead a film like this. You have to have a movie star. Even if it's somebody who's not a movie star yet, somebody with so much charisma.
Somebody waiting.
A movie star in waiting, and Kaylee Spaney is not that, and that is why and that is even more so than the lines and the little and the moments that are judged unwisely. I believe that the fact there's no movie star leading this is actually what ultimately harms it the most.
Well, it's not. I said this in another stream about this film. It's not that. The fact is that they should have got people.
Well, for me,
like, even because, all right, the budget was low, right? So they couldn't really get big movie stars. They could have got TV stars in there that you would like. I always say this, right? When you watch Alien, right? I've seen Tom Skerritt in other stuff, and I saw Ian Holm in other stuff, and John Hurt. So when you watch Alien, you kind of know who they are. They bring a slight baggage towards the character. And then because they're superb actors, they bring the character out, even if they only have a few lines, like John Hurt only had a few lines, and then he dies, right? So, but they bring the character out. With Cast and Unknowns, it's not going to give you that, is it? You know,
well,
if
also,
you have TV characters, you know,
and also, Ian, it's back again to sort of the lack of gravitas. This is the thing. So you look at somebody like Sigourney Weaver, and she brings heaps of gravitas.
That's because she was a good performer.
Correct. And so that's why she was able to be the final girl in Alien, because she's just such a weighty actress, and that's what then works with the other the three sequels to varying degrees of success and quality. But the fact that you've got Sigourney Weaver going through, you know, let's be honest, the fourth film would be unwatchable if it hadn't at least.
She carries.
She's the only thing that's worth watching in that.
We know that there are new movie stars coming through, maybe not at the rate that they used to be, but new movie stars come through. Sydney Sweeney's probably the breakout female lead of the last year to 18 months. And having not yet had a real proper sort of mainstream hit that's put her on the map, you know, maybe this could have been that, somebody like that who you literally can't take your eyes off.
That's what it needed, Dan.
There's a certain part you can't take your eyes off her anyway.
No, but there is. I'm getting fed up of this template for lead women in sci-fi. They've always got to be brunette. It happens in Star Wars as well. And I'm like, can we move away from that? Can we just have?
That's true.
Somebody
I
else?
never thought of that, but that's true.
And because you do this, they've got to look this way because they've got to make us sing it. No, now you're just getting generic. If you'd have cast a different looking woman, could have been completely different. Same thing happened with Daisy Ridley. She's got that certain aesthetic.
Looks like a boy.
And
it's called a boy.
Well, she looks a bit like
a boy.
I've got the perfect girl. I've got the perfect girl for them. Cast Shah as the next final. That's what we need. If you're out there, Shah, get her in. She'll sort it all out. I mean, obviously, I think a lot of what Culture was saying earlier on was the way a lot of people will feel, because this film has been received very, very well. I wouldn't describe it as being glowing reviews, lots of, overwhelmingly positive reviews. And I think a lot of that, and I picked up on this from Culture. Culture is a reviewer I really respect, a very learned man, a very considered man in his reviews, and very expressive in the words that he chooses. Very beardy as well. Yeah, but I think that there is a sense of relief that after we've seen so many franchises that we love get deconstructed and repurposed politically, that this film still felt like it was that place. There was nothing that felt current day about it at all. It was escapism, and none of it was ever dull. It doesn't quite hold together. I think you're absolutely right, Simon. It doesn't hold together. It doesn't necessarily make sense, but it seems it has found an audience, or it has coaxed a particular audience back out of the darkness. Think, they can still make a movie like this. But my final question, though, to all of you really is: as much as I enjoyed this, should they still be making these movies? Should we still be going to watch them? 45 years is a long time. For example, somebody suggested to me a couple of years ago that they should never have made another Star Wars movie, really, after Star Wars in 77. At first I went, and then I thought, you know what? Maybe they're right. And is it the same with it? Should they still be making these?
No. I personally think not. They should give up on this now. And for me, every film, and it's the same with Star Wars, every film that comes along that is lesser than the original one that you fell in love with just tarnishes it. And I think now is the time to let it go. and create something new. You know, this is what we need. We need something. We need a new Alien for today. Something, you know, go out and be creative. Stop. And that's the problem. One of the problems I had with this film, as I keep saying, it was the greatest hits of Aliens, and in fact, Alien Resurrection. And so to me, it's like, no, just stop remaking this stuff. Stop relying on past glories. Go and create something new. So
I'm pretty much there. I'm there with Terminator. Certainly, I think I'm maybe there with this. Sorry, Sarah.
No, I'm in agreement with both of you. There's the beauty of Alien was the simplicity of it, and there's only so much you can do. Right, we have the eggs, we have the facehugger, we have the chestburster, we have the adult xenomorph. That's it. There's only so much you can do with the androids. Yes. We've been exhausted by both points, but I really can't see what else, apart from bringing it to Earth. But is that really going to... I can't see...
It's just going to be more of the same, isn't it?
Well, and the problem is that other franchises and one-off movies have actually done that film already, kind of Aliens on Earth. So it's kind of 20, 30 years too late.
I think the reason why we're all saying it is because this one failed abysmally. This one could have been really good, actually.
Yeah, it could.
If they'd only looked at the script properly and worked out all the stupid, illogical things that they put in there. It could have been really good if they cast it right, but they didn't, right? It seems like a rush job to me. And also, again, I would say I think this film was made purely to solidify the Prometheus and the other film.
Covenant.
As I understand it, the film was happening anyway, and it was originally touted as being, just like you said, Ian, I think for Hulu, and a total standalone story. It was conceived as a standalone story, and that stuff was kind of added afterwards, drizzled through the story as they'd got.
When he took it to Ridley Scott, that's when he had the kernel of an idea, and he took it to Ridley Scott, and they discussed it, and then basically, obviously Ridley Scott has the influence in this, and that's why Scott Free took on the project. But again, right, I believe they could have done something really good here, but they didn't. So
I think they had the makings of it in, and that's what I actually find quite frustrating.
Yeah, okay, well, I think the time has come. We need to run this through the old computer and see what we come out with, everybody. I want your scores. I want your scores for Alien Romulus. I want your scores out of 5 for this one. Brand new film, released on the 16th of August this year, so still available for everybody to go and see. We may have spoiled it for you, but some people like spoilers. Let's go around and see. What would you give this out of 5 then, Ian?
I'm being generous. A 1.
Wow.
Well,
I hadn't picked up that you didn't like it as much as that.
No. Let's just get.
You've seen it twice as well.
I enjoyed it, right?
Yeah.
But then, and I still had problems when I came out the first time. Second time I saw it, I just thought, no, this doesn't work. So if you had asked me the first time I saw it, I would have probably given it a 2. But the second time I saw it, I'm like, no, this doesn't work. So now,
will you go back to it a third time when it's released digitally, or?
Well, if somebody asked me to go,
you're not going to rush back to it.
No.
So that's what was that? A 1? So that's a 1 from the Mega Geek here. Simon, what would you have as your score out of 5 for Alien Romulus?
I'm going to give it 1.5, seeing as Casino has introduced fractions here. So if I'm allowed,
there's always one.
If I'm allowed, I would give it 1.5. If I'm not allowed, I'm afraid it would be a 1. The only reason I'm giving it an extra half mark is because, as I said right at the beginning, did I enjoy myself in the cinema? Yeah, I did. I did have a good, enjoyable couple of hours watching it, but only because I surrendered to it and just thought, this is trash. I'm never going to watch this again. So I'm just going with it with 2 hours of alienness. So that's why I would give it the extra half mark. If you're going to deny me the half, I'm afraid it's going to have to be 1. I'm not going up to 2 and come down to 1.
Halves are fine. I think Culture pushed his luck with the 2.5.
3/4. 1.5. 1.5.
Okay, 1.5 from you. Sarah, you score out of 5 for Alien Romulus.
Right. Well, I'm actually going to be more generous than the other two because
It's because you're nice,
I know.
Sarah.
Well, I know, but I've completely moaned for the past 2 hours. But as Simon and Ian, I had a good time. I went with my dad. He's a big Alien fan. We enjoyed the evening. But it's just, when you think about it, it falls apart. I'm going to give it a 3.
Woo!
Because I appreciate what they were trying to do. I think the atmosphere was great. That first half I thought was fantastic. We've not even mentioned the music. Really loved the music, by the way. That
I didn't even notice it. Which is probably a good thing. It's probably a good thing.
It was very faithful to previous films. There was nods to other films, but it also had its own, spin on it as well. It loses a point, obviously, for the Ian Holm thing. I just can't forgive that.
No.
Not when they've gone to all the trouble to make you think of the Nostromo, even Mother, the way the graphics on the computer, the sounds, the countdown.
Yes, which I love. We haven't mentioned that, Sarah. And I love, sorry to interrupt, but I've got to say you're right. I loved the use of the Mother sounds, all those sound effects. I loved all the use of that.
So to go to that much trouble.
Yeah.
And then
throw it away.
With that, again, it's just a missed opportunity. But again, what it does well in them, it suffers, like Ian said, with the script. And it suffers from the problems of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, obviously that ending. And, there were some characters there who were very unpleasant. And if they're unpleasant, you don't care about them.
Yeah.
You can't get invested. So, I'm going to say 3 out of 5. Surprise you, that?
Yeah, that's more than I thought. Yeah, you seem very unhappy with it. I thought you'd come in at around the 2.5 mark at the most. So I'm hovering now. You see, because fractions have been introduced. So before the fractional, I'd have probably gone for a 4.
I guess you would,
because I really enjoyed it. For all the reasons that I've said. Unfortunately, the things that it's missing, mainly a movie star leading it. I think it's integral to it, and the giving in to not excess, but to temptation with some moments which did break the spell. So I'm taking my 4 down to 3.5 very reluctantly, because I did have a really good time with this. It didn't outstay its welcome with me. It felt about right with the runtime. I just would have liked it to have been pinned down a lot deeper into the bed of this universe. And the things that I thought I'd have a problem with, like the cast, absolutely fine. I thought most of them were really, really good. I don't think there are many problems with it, but the ones that it does have are they're the nails in the tire. They're as I said, they're the ones that stop it from going to the place that they intended it to go, and the place as an audience member who just wants to see a monster movie. And I know what you mean. They are pretty films. The first one is a seminal film. Aliens probably is as well. I don't necessarily expect them all to be seminal, because it's a 45-year-old franchise. And I do think that Alvarez brought something distinctive to this, but it didn't quite gel. The relief of it not being woke nonsense does count for a lot, but it's not enough to take it back up to 4. So it's a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I would recommend, if you enjoy a monster movie and you're able to I think Simon summed it up perfectly. If you're able to sort of weigh things up and think, you know what, I'm here now, I'm going all in. If you've got the ability to do that, or you're going with friends like Ian did, absolutely go and see this at the cinema. But you're not going to miss a huge amount in the age of home cinema. You're not going to miss a huge amount if you do wait for it to turn up on streaming or on 4K or whatever. So it's a 3.5 out of 5 from me. Sarah was in there with you were in there with a 3, weren't you, Sarah? Yeah. Simon was a 1.5, and Ian was at the bottom there with his simple digit up there. So that's our scores for Alien Romulus. It's still on release at the moment in your local multiplex and all that jazz, and it'll probably be out on digital in about a fortnight. You know the way these things go. But that was what a film to bring the Spacebook live back with. I really enjoyed going to see it. I enjoyed going to the cinema for the first time in a really, really long time.
Yeah, me too, Dan. Me too.
I did it. It had been 2.5 years. It was far better than the Batman, which I thought still think was a pile of bloody nonsense.
Still not seen it.
Yeah.
I literally haven't been to the cinema since Covenant. That was the last film I saw at the cinema.
Oh, just the Alien stuff. Yeah. So
long time. So it got me back to the cinema. So
I'm gonna get back into the habit. So that's a win. That's definitely a win. But what it says for the franchise, I mean, I do wonder, has this done? Are they going to make another one of these? It looks almost certain because this has been a major success.
Oh, yeah,
They're going to make another one sooner rather than later. Will Fede Alvarez be there? I doubt it. I think that once somebody has made one film in the sequence, with the exception of Ridley, with what he was trying to do, once somebody's made one film like this, they kind of want to move on. I can't see him coming back for more. This has probably done more for his career than it maybe has for Alien. But I would expect another one to be announced probably before the end of the year. And if they still have an audience for it, I'm sure they'll keep making them. And it's up to me whether I still turn up or not. That's how I look at it. But let me know what you think in the comments section as well. Have you been to see it? A few people in the live chat have seen it. Some people are going to see it and don't care about spoilers. So thank you for sticking with us. Sticking with us anyway.
Everything.
I think few people would argue that they don't make them like they used to. But the simple pleasure of going to the cinema, I wouldn't say it's been completely sort of regilded for me, but I'm not dreading my next visit. Let us know what you think in the comments. You've heard our reviews and our scores on Alien Romulus, but what did you think? Do you think we're talking absolute rabid nonsense? You can tell us what for there in the comment section, and we'll get right back to you. Great to be back, Ian, talking about things that aren't Doctor Who. Have you enjoyed yourself?
Yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah,
more fun than the movie.
Exactly.
I always kind of think, that the fun of watching any movie is the pulling apart of it afterwards. That's the fun bit.
Is that it? We've been having this conversation in front of a live chat of game pundits there on YouTube and Rumble, adding their comments as well. And so thank you for all of that. Lots of people talking about the subsequent Alien movies and all the other things that Ridley Scott's done sideways to this. And we'll definitely come back to this universe sooner rather than later. We've got a retrospective show planned where we'll dig into all of that, no doubt. So stick around for that. Please like the video. It helps more than you think. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the cloister bell to get all the notifications. Okay, so Culture Casino, you can find him at Culture Casino on Twitter. Sarah, you're not doing social media at the moment, so I can't ask you that question, but it's been great to have you back, especially if you've had such a busy day, haven't you? You've been out on the Raz with our Charlotte.
I have. I know I'm getting a reputation for going out on the Raz with certain members of this group, aren't I? So
you are indeed. And Simon, a rare chance for us to talk about something that's outside of the TARDIS as well.
Yes, absolutely. And don't even bother trying to look for me on social media, because I'm right down here still in the depths of the Nostromo, and I'm staying here. Thank you very much.
Ian, you're hard at work, aren't you? On Rebecca Gold 2. So you've been out there filming quite a lot. So we haven't had as much chance to catch up with you as we'd usually like. But people can find you on social media, can't they? And they can watch Rebecca Gold and follow the progress of that too on dedicated social media accounts and on the YouTube channel. What's it called again?
It's called Rebecca Gold.
I hope the script's good, and that script better be good.
I can't wait to review it, Ian.
We're going to rip that script apart.
I'm prepared for people not to like it. It's their opinion. I'm not going to fight against it. Why would I fight against it? Do you know what I mean? So
it's all fun.
And you, that's it. That's Ian on X at Ian David Diaz, and you can find me on Instagram and X as the Spacebook, where I'm wheezing and groaning and ranting and raving about all things geeky inside and outside of the TARDIS in movies, comic books, TV, and physical media too. So go and find me there and tell me that I'm talking absolute nonsense. Everybody else does.
Dan, you're
Yes,
talking absolute
we
nonsense.
do. We actually do ring him up and tell him that.
Time to go. We'll be back soon with more coverage of all out there entertainment, everybody. But thank you so much for your company this time. We'll see you in the comments. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.